Scale for having us out here all the way from San Francisco. We are so happy to be here. My name is Lauren Austin. I run product marketing for Ancestry's subscription business, but have spent the majority of my career in acquisition and retention marketing, focused specifically on the digital and life cycle spaces.
And my name is Kiara Kempski, and I head up television and video investment for Ancestry, and have moved my way through various international markets, overseeing our television strategy.
So we're going to take you guys on a journey today. First, who is Ancestry, and what is our perspective on television? And then on to something that we call our invite promotional strategy, not only the evolution, but the application of that strategy. And then we'll close with some final thoughts. So does that sound good?
Yes.
Excellent. So welcome to the family. Ancestry is in the business of connection. So many years ago, we introduced our family history product, our traditional family history product, which is Ancestry, founded on the basis of content. So content in our world is historical records. So you think birth records, marriage records, military draft cards, war diaries, things of that sort. That rich, meaningful content that helps people tell stories. So today, we actually have over 18 billion historical records sourced from 80 different countries. More recently, we actually entered in a completely different space, the consumer genomic space. And we introduced our Ancestry DNA product. So ultimately, to bring science and self-discovery together to help everyone everywhere discover the story of what led to them. So our business has evolved. We're a global reaching company with localized brands and with offices in, 7 countries at this point, one in Germany, in Munich. And our business is sustained off of over 2.5 million paying subscribers, so the number has changed since. And now we've sold 2.5 million DNA kits globally, making us the largest consumer genomics database in the world.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about television at Ancestry. So television is so first I will start with that. I think we're fairly unique at Ancestry in that we are a large brand advertiser, but we are in fact a performance-based marketing organization. Television represents the largest investment for Ancestry, roughly 60% of our total marketing spend globally. And I don't have to tell a lot of the traditional advertisers that might be here that television is actually the perfect blend of art and science. But for us, the art actually comes in the development of our custom content and our television shows. So, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So television at Ancestry. So we're constantly working at developing new television show content. We sponsor, produce, and co-create a number of different television shows. And I can't underscore enough the impact that these television shows have on our overall business, from the perspective of driving incremental revenue and sales, but also in that it is the largest category awareness driver for us. We work in all of our major markets to develop new shows, working with networks and production houses. And here are just a few examples of some of the shows that we currently have on air in the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and in the UK. So let's get philosophical for a moment and talk about our global television strategy, or philosophy rather, at Ancestry. So as I mentioned, we are a performance-based marketing organization. So all of the investment decisions that are made from television all the way down to digital are very much focused on a cost per acquisition metric, and we measure everything accordingly. We also believe that TV is the rising tide that lifts all boats. As we scale and invest in television, we see efficiencies gained across all of our demand capture, digital, and lifecycle marketing channels. Measurement and messaging framework are globally applicable, and they should be. We never want to stifle or limit any of our local markets from the tone and the voice that they need to develop in order to communicate to their consumers, but it should all sit within a larger framework. Also, we believe that good content and good ads can come from any market and should be leveraged and evolve in this larger framework. measurement. Probably the sexiest part of television. Just kidding. It is probably what I spend the most of my time focused on, but it is definitely complex. And I could probably talk for an entire session just about how we measure television and all the various models that we use and the way that we look at investment decisions, et cetera. But from a high level, we really try to measure TV to answer specific questions about the business. We look to measure to actually optimize the performance of the channel. And we also look at measurement to understand investment decisions, how much more we should be adding, things like that, and where we should be adding. And then the other thing we also recognize is that there are things that we can't quite quantify. And for those, we don't try to extrapolate certain information or infer insights. That can lead to definitely a false sense of precision when it comes to optimizing the channel. And so for those metrics, we choose to watch them and watch how they develop over time. So let's break it down a little bit and kind of talk between the two specifics on how we measure versus watch. So measure what you can. Things that we know that we can measure and that we do a very good job of doing is brand traffic volume by device, by region, location. To the example to the right is an example of an immediate response model. There's tons of them out there and very different approaches to it, but the principle is the same. You run an ad and you measure the incremental volume increase in your site traffic or your conversions, whatever that KPI is for your business, within a certain period of time. And so this is just an example of that. That can, of course, also lead to certain sales volumes, retention rate information, giving you a acquisition cost. And so you can optimize and get true insights all the way down to the specific television creative that you're looking to understand the performance of, down to the network, the day part, and things like that. And you can look at it from a response rate or a cost per acquisition and basically any KPI that's really important to your specific business. The other thing we also can measure, and we actually do quite effectively, is understanding what those acquisition efficiencies are all the way down our funnel and what that interplay is between all of our other marketing channels. As we invest in television, how do we see the resulting efficiencies gained in, for example, brand search or in Facebook, et cetera. Some of the metrics that we also know that are important or that are affected by television, but to what degree can we quantify them? We don't try to. We recognize that there's some things that fall into that art category that are important, but we just can't quite nail down in order to use them for an optimization perspective. So the first of which is kind of brand awareness and familiarity. We know those are very important to the overall health of the brand, but to what degree does movement in those metrics correlate to additional sales and revenue to the business? We can't quite tell. And so we say, you know what, we know that these are important, so we're gonna watch them. Reach and frequency, share of voice. These are traditional brand television metrics that are definitely important. They are, in fact, however, the result of our media strategy, not the goal in which we're aiming to achieve. Response lag, halo, cross-sell for multi-product. So as Lauren mentioned, we have a new product that we've added in our personal genomics, Ancestry DNA. And we know that as we advertise on television, we see an increasing amount of cross-sell into this newer product. When people start purchasing multiple products, right, there's multiple opportunities for sales and conversions. And so we know that there's an interplay there. It's also a newer market, right? It's a newer product for us that we're also building a little bit more around the category. So there's a bit of things right now where we can't quite specify the impact on directionally. So we say we know that it's evolving and we're going to continue to watch this metric. As long as everything is improving, we're good. And we're going to continue to watch and see how that unfolds for us. So when we think about television creative, every company and every brand will have a different approach to how they do it, and it'll work best for them. For us, we like to think about our television creative in a larger framework. And it really falls into like three main buckets. The first is our kind of higher level brand ads, which really seek to inspire the audience with these like aha moments of discovery and excitement and create a really big interest in family history. We also know that these ads can be more expensive than most of our other creative executions. They don't always have to be. But we also know that these have a more delayed response curve, and they don't perform very well if you're looking at an immediate response model or any of those kind of more DR performance lenses. The middle category, or second bucket, for our creative is our informational ads. And these ads are really focused around providing information on the product and the value and how to actually use it. The latest execution of that we've done most significantly is probably our testimonial ads. A little example of what that testimonial ad looks like. And this is definitely the core and the largest foundation of our overall media strategy. They perform very well in an immediate response measurement lens, and so they are the foundation of our overall messaging and television creative strategy. And then the third that we're going to spend a little bit more time today talking about is actually these invitational ads, as we call them. What these are kind of more of the tactical or promotional ads, and they really focus on inviting the audience to act in a certain period of time. And definitely perform very well from an immediate response model that you can measure. All right, so if I talk to a number of different advertisers, especially traditional brand advertisers, I often hear, well, oh yeah, those tactical or promotional ads, those can definitely like damage the brand, or they're tacky, or they're the cheap DR ads and things like that. And while I can definitely agree, if not done well, they can definitely come off in that way. But that doesn't have to always be the case. And I actually think that we do a very effective job at changing the perception of those particular ads. But there are some things that you definitely need to pay attention to. So the first is, if you're going to implement such a kind of more promotional type of ad in your overall messaging strategy on television, is to really think, if you're going to act now, you really have to think long term. I think a really great question to ask yourself is, will this in fact elevate the brand? Will it elevate the product feature that we're trying to showcase? If you can answer yes, probably a good idea that you can start to think about and actually test into it. You want to make sure, though, that you're never going to pivot your overall strategy to an immediate sales goal while sacrificing the larger picture of your overall TV messaging strategy. The second thing is, when you start to actually think about how do you develop those particular ads, it's to really think about, for us, the main focus and goal of those types of ads are really just to reduce the barriers of entry for our consumers. And the ways that we specifically try to make sure that that happens is by focusing on urgency, incentive, and that they should really be custom ads. We have tested over the years, do you take one of those kind of mid-funnel ads and do you put on a promotional end frame at the end of that? And we've definitely tested into that, but they never really quite perform the way we need them to or want them to. And so custom ads that are very much dedicated to a specific focus and goal is really important. If you think about it, you have 30 seconds to achieve a very specific objective, and trying to tell multiple messages and sell a higher register order and then try to put a discount on the end can really confuse the audience. Examples over here to the right are actually some of our end frames, or some thumbnails of our overall, of these promotional tactical television ads. The one on the bottom is actually one of my favorites. It is tied to our new Ancestry DNA product, and it was connected with the St. Patrick's Day holiday, and really promoted one of the awesome features of our DNA product, and showing how Irish are you really, and what is your Irish ethnicity breakdown in a really fun way.
Yeah. So taking some of the guiding principles of promotional, or this invite strategy that is executed on TV, we now want to broaden that controlled approach to other touch points across the digital and lifecycle experience, because we know that TV drives efficiency in other channels. So we start with TV, and then we add additional touch points across digital and lifecycle. And today I'm going to use the words lifecycle and CRM interchangeably. And what I mean is, in our world, that is email, that's in-product messaging, and retargeting channels like Facebook or even direct mail. So this concept of invite has gone through its own process of evolution at our business. So a couple years ago, we were truly decentralized in the way that we thought through channel contribution. We're truly siloed. And we really couldn't imagine a world where demand generation and demand capture could play in the same sandbox. And also that traditional demand gen channels like TV could be a tactical lever. So fast forward to last year, where we introduced this concept of better together, where we started to ask the question, what would the world look like if we integrated television with our digital and lifecycle efforts? Fast forward to this year, where we're more confident in a proven model of success for this strategy. Now we're focused on globalize and expand. So you think of concepts like a global calendar, and truly refining what it means to integrate television with digital for reach and frequency of touch points, but also CRM or lifecycle to reignite and monetize the existing prospect database. So we learned a lot of things in this process as we continue to test and evolve what this strategy looks like for our business. But we encountered one challenge that kept coming up, and it happened to be global. It also happened to be internal. And it was truly this idea of, how do you change the way people think think about the way that they do their job and operate their space on a daily basis. And how do you rally around shared goals and truly justify the increased upfront investment of time and resource to then worth the reward at the end of the day when we can execute this strategy properly. What we realized was you had to rally around an event where the content was universally relevant, and for us, the content piece is our global record collections, where the timing made sense. So you think of the core values or the founding principles of our invite strategy, timely, relevant, time-boxed moments that drive urgency. And then lastly, something was truly global. So globally relevant, globally acknowledged or celebrated. And so a perfect example of that for us and for our business were the Global Days of Honor.
All right, so Remembrance Day is actually a day that is recognized globally in all of our major markets. It is a day that is dedicated to veterans and fallen soldiers that we collectively share. This particular holiday, it was a really great opportunity for us in the sense that we could really rally behind focusing on a product feature that we wanted to link with this holiday. And for us, that was our extensive military records collection database. So the first execution of this particular ad actually came to us from the US market, or from the UK market rather. And as I said, we really do believe that good content and good ideas can come from anywhere. And so we leveraged this ad that was first developed out of our UK market for their centenary in 2014. And this ad does a really effective job at really showcasing our military records and the records collection tied to this holiday. It also walks through how these records were actually developed back in time and how you can actually find some amazing insights from them. It also reduces the barriers to entry in that it promotes free access to both our product and this record collection, and it creates a sense of urgency in that you are only able to do that for a short period of time during this holiday weekend. What we then did after it ran in the UK and we saw amazing success from that, we actually took it globally. And we said, took this creative and then you localize that particular creative for each of the markets. And those are things like from voiceovers to end frames or call to actions. Below are just a couple examples of for the UK and Canada where we actually updated the end frames to make them applicable in that market. And now we're actually going to take a moment to watch the US version of that ad.
It all starts with your family name. This Veterans Day, Ancestry can help you discover the soldiers in your family with free access to more than 250 million wartime records. Just type in a name and let us guide you through the fascinating details of your ancestors' military service. Discover the heroes in your family. Enjoy free access to global military records until November 11th at Ancestry.
All right. So as Lauren's been talking a lot about how you unify your television strategy all the way through to your digital and your lifecycle marketing channels, the same thing is said actually for within television. Now that you have a promotional tactical message rallying around a very specific focus, how can you actually optimize the media that you're actually running that creative on? And so here's a couple ways that we've done it for the Remembrance Day and for other tactical efforts that we've done, but that are definitely great recommendations for you. So the first is, can you actually upweight the impacts or impressions for bursts around the specific holiday? This is not necessarily to suggest you spend incremental dollars over that period of time, but how can you actually cluster and move some of your overall inventory to create these upweighted moments of impressions during this promotional period? The second is actually to think about increasing your frequency. So now that you have an ad that is very specific and very focused in its objective and its message, the shorter executions of that ad, so the 15 seconds and the 20-second versions of that ad actually have for us, it has actually had a higher response rate, and they actually perform almost on par to your 30s in driving your overall business performance. And so if you actually think about, can you actually increase the frequency of those shorter units over that period of time, you will actually at the end see a bigger performance difference at the end of the day. And then the third is to focus on placement. So context matters, and it especially does in television. Since we're thinking about Remembrance Day and the focus of this overall campaign, what are some inventory that we either have or that are available to us that we can contextually place this ad in? Remembrance Day, it was things for us around like news. Are there any memorial programming or parades that are happening? Are there any military documentaries or movies that make a lot of sense to place this program in? And the last one is, depending on your agency relationship or your media planning and buying partner, are there ways that you can leverage some of your added value, your bonus units, or your TV billboards that come as a part of your larger media buy to actually have those and condense those and have them actually focus towards this campaign? They're not a huge part of your overall media strategy, so when you actually leverage them for a specific purpose, it can actually be more impactful overall.
So let's take a step back, get a little bit more specific. So we have our foundation. So the foundation of global, timely, relevant event, urgency, and reduced no barriers to entry, truly, as well as coupled with distinct, unique creative, and then now a rock star TV media strategy. So what comes next? Now is the opportunity that we get to optimize our additional channel support in the digital and lifecycle spaces. So a few things to remember. Never compromise the integrity of your existing channel optimization efforts. So what does that mean? I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it is very much likely that, for example, your digital channels already have an optimization process in place to perfect their space. So what do we want to do with that? We want to leverage that as our baseline. So baseline metrics when we start to test into promotional versus non-promotional moments. Secondly, and this was something very specific to our own path, but you go broad and then you start to narrow and refine. So when we started this, the evolution of this strategy, we actually exhausted all available touch points across digital and the lifecycle channels. So, and over time, what's happened is we actually, some channels have boiled to the top as being more profitable, more efficient, more effective. And others have kind of fallen to the wayside. And so what you start to do is distill into a portfolio of channels that truly are optimal mix for promotional support. And then lastly is take the time to test into the media weighting that is right for your business. So this may look like, for example, 80% of your digital spend is dedicated to tactical messaging during a promotional period, and 100% of CRM rotation is dedicated to promotional or tactical messaging. So the campaign ended up being rolled out in 2 separate phases across the customer lifecycle. Phase 1 was focused on conversion through a multi-channel integrated campaign with a consistent message from the off-site experience through the in-product experience, leveraging free access, which is no barrier to entry, highly engaging type of tactic. Where phase 2, we actually did something different and new for our business, which was we put our digital and lifecycle channels to work for us in capturing the TV traffic that fell out of the funnel, so non-converting TV traffic. First, we had to identify who the heck that traffic was, which we did so through a qualifying process, so traffic source, a certain level, 2 levels of engagement attributes, and their purchase state, so they had to be a non-purchaser. And then we used lifecycle email, in-product messaging, and Facebook retargeting to touch this cohort of people with a time-boxed incentive. So what did the performance look like? What ended up happening? So phase 1, we exceeded our original acquisition goal by 50%. So we go back to what Kiara was mentioning when we first started, which is TV is this rising tide that lifts all ships. Well, that was definitely the case here. We saw a halo effect on all channels, improving efficiencies. And we also saw a massive increase in TV attributable traffic and conversion. We also saw the halo effect on other business KPIs for us. So the adoption of higher lifetime revenue packages, lift in reactivated subscriptions and upgraded subscriptions. So overall, a big benefit for the business. Year over year, the only difference in controlled variables was promotional television. Phase 2, this is where we put our digital and lifecycle channels to work for us. Because we had never done something like this before, we wanted to have a pure holdout in place to understand baseline versus lift, incremental lift. And so in this place, we actually affected all of our spaces in a really positive way, tripled our conversion rate for Facebook, drove 2 times the email response rate and a 75% increase in conversion for the in-product messaging. So all in all, a major business benefit when our channels work together to capture and recapture demand.
All right, some closing thoughts. Traditional demand generation channels can be a tactical lever. Don't necessarily be limited by tradition or what's always been done or the view that we have of television. It can actually be a demand gen channel for you.
So secondly, a focused message across multiple touch points will outperform mixed brand and promotional messaging. So as I mentioned before, you have to find the right mix of channel support and media weighting in some capacity that's right for your business. But once you get there, a unified message across those touch points will outperform.
Leverage lifecycle and digital channels to amplify your offline strategy. And this is definitely easier said than done, but a concise, amplified message will always perform better. And thank you so much for having us. If any of you are ever interested in learning more about yourself or where you came from, definitely check out Ancestry in all of your markets. I'm sure we have a presence there.